When we try to find out which battle or war is the biggest, most important, most terrible or deadliest in history, we quickly realize that the two world wars of the last century alone contain the worst horrors in all of human history. For example, we can mention the Battle of Verdun, which lasted 10 months and cost the lives of more than 300,000 men, with another 100,000 wounded, all for an almost negligible strategic result. There's also the Battle of Stalingrad, which in 9 months caused 800,000 casualties among the Soviets, both civilians and military, and 400,000 among the Axis forces. This half-century of extreme violence will have an unprecedented impact on mindsets all over the world. The trauma is felt even in art, where we see increasingly disturbing works emerging. But beyond the most horrific battles, have you ever wondered what was the lamest battle? The worst, the most pathetic one? Well, obviously, the epic battle between Jojo and Bébert, the two poor guys from the neighborhood who tried to fight downstairs from your place at 2 in the morning before falling asleep, drunk, passed out in each other's arms, could claim the title. But today, I suggest you discover the historical event that, in my opinion, deserves the title of the most pathetic battle in history. The time when Australia went to war against emus. And lost. Lost. It's 1932 in the Campion district in Western Australia. Australia. This wonderful country where everything that's small and cute in the rest of the world is gigantic and terrifying here. By the way, have you seen the video where the Australian Minister of Health is interrupted during a press conference? Because the Huntsman spider climbs on her. You don't know the Huntsman spider, ladies and gentlemen? The Huntsman spider? It's a big creature that doesn't spin webs but chases after its prey, hence its name. And it has Jedi-like reflexes, which makes it notoriously hard to catch. But on the other hand, it's harmless. Well, almost. In fact, in Australia, a lot of road accidents are caused by huntsman spiders that have hidden inside vehicles, like above the sun visor, and then fall onto the driver when they lower it, causing them to panic and lose control of the vehicle. Similarly, are you tired of pigeons pooping on your windshield? In Australia, people have to deal with pigeons that are 2 meters tall. These are emus, the second largest bird in the world behind the ostrich, which can reach almost 3 meters. The emu, on the other hand, stands almost 2 meters tall, weighs about 50 kilos, and can sprint at 70 kilometers per hour. So, as I was saying, it's 1932 in the Campion district in Western Australia. The veterans returning from the war, were offered large plots of land in the West by the government in the late 1910s and early 1920s in order to develop agriculture in the inland areas. To encourage the development of wheat farming, the government promises subsidies. But then the crash of 29 hits, and not only do the subsidies not come, but the price of wheat also collapses. Protest movements start to form, with farmers threatening not to distribute their crops, but the government no longer has any money to help them. Some separatists even start to make themselves heard. In short, the situation is far from good. And since trouble never comes alone, it turns out that every year in the spring, which is in September since we're in the southern hemisphere, about 20,000 emus migrate towards the coast. Now the wheat fields are like gigantic all-you-can-eat buffets, and the water reserves set up everywhere for irrigation serve as bars. So the 20,000 emus turn into a swarm of locusts, but in a much angrier version, and they absolutely destroy everything in their path. They even manage to brush against the farmers' rabbit hutches, freeing the rabbits inside, adding devastation to devastation. Now, let me remind you that our brave farmers who are victims of this plague are veterans of the First World War. So they won't complain to the Minister of Agriculture, who keeps saying he can't help them. They complain to the Minister of Defense, Sir George Pearce. And the farmers are asking for the deployment of artillery. And the minister agrees. Already that's a great start. The minister agrees, but with conditions. Only active duty soldiers will use the weapons, and the farmers will provide food, lodging, and pay for the ammunition. For Pierce, it will serve as training for the soldiers and allow the government to look good in the eyes of the farmers, which, given the general discontent, certainly can't hurt. In October, the military intervention begins. Major Meredith from the 7th Heavy Battery of the Artillery Regiment arrive with his men, Sergeant McMurtry and Gunner O'Halloran, a few troops, and 2 Lewis machine guns. In short, the military gets into position, but a period of rain scatters the emus and delays the start of the operation by several weeks. It's November 2nd, 1932 in Campion. A group of 50 emus has been spotted. Major Meredith thinks it's a good target for some practice. The gunners take their positions, and once within range of the birds, they open fire. But the sound of the gunshot scares the animals. And instead of fleeing as a herd, they scatter, running in all directions. The gunners opened fire when the emus were within range, but still at a great distance, so they were unable to hit them. A second attempt a little later allowed them to kill a handful. It depends on the sources, but basically less than 10. 2 days later, Major Meredith and his men encountered a much larger group of nearly 1,000 birds. Where some locals act as beaters, they set up an ambush for them. This time, they wait until the animals are really close to them before opening fire. But despite the hail of lead they unleash on them, they only manage to kill 12. The rest of the flock flees, and the unfortunate gunners won't see another emu for the rest of the day. In the days that follow, Meredith and his men head south, where rumor has it that the birds are more accustomed to humans and therefore less skittish. The reality is that it's not possible to herd the birds into the same place like a cattle herd. They invariably scatter. Major Meredith, who is starting to get fed up, decides to mount one of the machine guns on a truck and chase after them. The problem is, we're out in the middle of nowhere with an old truck from the 1930s. Meredith and his men drive the truck at full speed in pursuit of the emus, but the uneven ground makes the truck bounce around, making it nearly impossible for the gunner to aim. Furthermore, the birds, who, let me remind you, are excellent runners, quickly outdistance their metal pursuers, bringing this epic chase to an end. Crashed into a fence. 1 week after the start of the campaign, 2,500 rounds had been fired and 50 birds shot down. The Major will make a point of stating in his report that none of his men were injured during the operations. Still, I wouldn't bet much on that guy's ears. Faced with such a fiasco, the government orders a ceasefire and the withdrawal of the troops. But it's not 50 fewer birds that will cool the enthusiasm of the rest of those crop-eating birds. Worse, the drought that's starting makes the animals bold enough to venture into the farmers' enclosures. So the farmers are asking for the army to return, which the Prime Minister fully approves. The Minister of Defense then follows suit, supporting the necessity of this operation before the Senate, and sends Meredith and his men back into the field on November 12. Between November 13 and December 10, the gunners strive to shoot down the invading birds. At the end of the period and after 10,000 rounds fired, Meredith will announce a total of 986 birds shot down. It becomes clear to the military that many of the birds are escaping easily and without showing any signs of injury. Have in fact been hit. The army overestimated the stupidity of the emu and underestimated their resistance to bullets. In fact, Meredith would say about these animals, "If I had a military division as bullet resistant as these birds, I could face any army in the world. They're as invulnerable to machine gun fire as tanks. They're like the South African Zulus that not even expanding bullets can stop." It should be noted, however, that in addition to the 1,000 individuals killed, it is estimated that 2,500 more died from their wounds after fleeing. But that's still not even a fifth of the nuisance birds that were shot down. The story of the Emu War is starting to get attention, and voices are being raised in England against the extermination of a rare and endemic species. In Australia, the ornithologist Hubert Whittle described the operation as mass destruction. Dominic Cervanti, another Australian ornithologist, would say, "These gunners' dream of firing point blank into a compact mass of emus quickly faded. It seems obvious that the Emu Command ordered the implementation of guerrilla tactics, and its army quickly dispersed into countless small units, making the use of military equipment ineffective. The armed forces deployed in the field, discouraged, withdrew from the battlefield in less than a month." Yes, indeed, it's mocking, because more than the operation itself, it's its bitter failure that will make people talk about it. Today, the Emu War has become a meme on the internet, with all the parodies that come with it. But despite this fiasco, local farmers would still request the army's assistance in 1934, 1943 and 1948. In fact, far from being an endangered species, emus tend to proliferate when they find their food in human crops. Nevertheless, the government would refuse to send armed forces. Instead, it will introduce a bounty system. For each emu carcass delivered, you walk away with money. By 1934, the system proved effective, with more than 57,000 bounties claimed in 6 months. Similarly, the government will start providing assistance for building fences, which will also prove effective against dingoes and rabbits. Nevertheless, the growing number of emus led the government to release in 1950 500,000 cartridges from army reserves, which were distributed to farmers to help them deal with the invaders. Guerrilla warfare against guerrilla warfare. That's how, in 1932, Australia declared war on birds and lost, making this event one of the most ridiculous in military history. Look up at the sky, be astrono geek, and see you next time.